There's a feeling in the air, isn't there? A sense that things are spinning out of control. We all see the headlines, we feel the uncertainty, and we can't help but ask, what's next? What if the blueprint for our current chaos, and a warning about what's still to come, was written down thousands of years ago? The Bible talks about pestilences in various places as a sign of the end of days. Many people believe the COVID-19 pandemic was a tremor, a birth pain, before the real earthquake. But the real question isn't if the next global plague was prophesied. It's what these ancient texts reveal about how it will all go down and what it means for our future. Let's be honest, the last few years have felt like a shared nightmare. The COVID-19 pandemic did more than just get us sick. It pulled back the curtain and showed how fragile our world really is. For the first time in most of our lives, the entire planet was fighting a single, invisible enemy. We watched supply chains snap, economies wobble, and we were forced apart from each other. It was a terrifying reminder that with all our modern technology, we're not invincible. That experience left a scar, a nagging anxiety that we're all standing on shaky ground. Every time a headline pops up about some new virus, that knot in our stomach tightens. We can't help but wonder if the big one is still out there. The pandemic proved that one microscopic bug can bring the modern world to its knees. It showed us just how fast normal life can be taken away, leaving us feeling completely uncertain. That exact feeling, that global anxiety, is what sends so many people looking for answers. Not in the 24-hour news cycle, but in a much older book. This is where the biblical story starts to crash into our modern world, offering a way to make sense of the chaos. So, what does the Bible actually say about all this? When you open the scriptures, you realize that our anxiety is nothing new. Thousands of years ago, Jesus' disciples asked him basically the same question we're asking: what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? In his answer, which you can read in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, Jesus listed several signs. He talked about wars and rumors of wars, nations fighting each other, famines, and earthquakes. And right in the middle of that list, he included a word that sounds all too familiar today: pestilences. The original Greek word, loimos, means plagues, epidemics, or widespread diseases. But here's the most important part of his warning. In Matthew 24:8, Jesus says, "All these are the beginning of sorrows." The original Greek paints an even clearer picture, using the metaphor, the beginning of birth pangs. Anyone who's been around for the birth of a child gets this instantly. Contractions don't just happen once. They start small and far apart. But as the time gets closer, they get stronger, faster, and more intense. That's the key to how the Bible looks at pandemics. It isn't pointing to one single disease and saying, that's it. Instead, it describes a pattern, an increase in the frequency and intensity of these global disasters. Many who study prophecy look at events like the 1918 Spanish flu and, more recently, COVID-19, not as random accidents, but as contractions. They're signs that history is moving toward a final, climactic moment. They're meant to make us pay attention. So, while it's tempting to call the recent pandemic the Great Pestilence, it's probably more accurate, within this framework, to see it as a warning shot, a birth pain signaling that one age is ending and a new one is about to begin. The warnings in the Gospels are just the beginning. To really grasp the scale of what the Bible prophesies, you have to turn to its final book, Revelation. This is where the images get intense. In Revelation chapter 6, we meet the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, who are released as a series of seals are opened. These horsemen represent the cataclysmic events that will strike the earth in the end times. The first 3 riders bring conquest, war, and famine. But it's the 4th horseman who speaks directly to our topic. John, the author of Revelation, describes the sight. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. The Greek word used for pale here is chloros, which gives us the word chlorophyll. It describes a sickly greenish-yellow color, the color of disease and decay. The passage goes on to say this rider was given power over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. Now that word death is key. Many scholars interpret it in this context to mean widespread pestilence, since disease is a primary way mass death occurs in the Bible. This prophecy points to a level of devastation that's hard to even imagine. COVID-19 was a tragedy that took millions of lives. The pale horse of Revelation describes something on a scale that could potentially impact 1/4 of the globe, affecting billions of people. It suggests that what we've already been through might just be a shadow of the much larger judgments described in Revelation. The Old Testament prophet Ezekiel also described a final conflict where God would bring judgment on a rebellious world, and pestilence is one of his chosen instruments. In Ezekiel 38:22, God says, I will execute judgment upon him with pestilence and bloodshed. The theme is consistent. Widespread disease is shown as more than just a random act of nature, but as a signpost pointing toward the end of an era. Okay, hearing all of this can be terrifying. The images of plagues and judgment are designed to be sobering. But according to the Bible, the point of prophecy isn't to create fear for fear's sake. It's to get us to wake up. These warnings aren't a script for a future that's already set in stone. They are a merciful alarm bell. The Bible presents these escalating crises as the natural outcome of a world that is spiritually broken and has drifted from its creator. From that point of view, Pandemics are a symptom of a much deeper sickness. That's why the ultimate solution offered isn't a vaccine or a government plan, but a spiritual one. These events are meant to shatter our illusion of control. They're a reminder of our own mortality and our need for something bigger than ourselves. The real message woven through all these warnings is about readiness. Jesus finished his big sermon on the end times by telling his followers to be watchful, like servants waiting for their master to return, because the end would come at an unexpected hour. That means the fear you feel watching the news can be flipped. It can become fuel for faith. It can push you to look at your own life, to seek God, and to get on the right side of history. Instead of being paralyzed with anxiety, the biblical call is to find refuge in God. Psalm 91 says, "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness." This isn't a magical promise that you'll never face hardship, but a promise that you don't have to face it with crippling fear. It's an invitation to find shelter, not in our own plans, but in God's faithfulness. The plagues are a sign, but they aren't pointing toward despair. They are pointing toward a decision. So, was the next global plague written in the Bible? The answer is a surprising no and yes. No, the Bible doesn't name COVID-19 or give us a specific date on a calendar, but in a much deeper sense, the answer is a resounding yes. The Bible absolutely prophesied a time when pestilences would become a recurring feature of a chaotic world. It laid out a pattern of birth pains, global crises that would get more intense and more frequent as we approach the end of the age. We've seen how Jesus himself warned of this, and how the book of Revelation describes a future plague that dwarfs anything we've experienced so far. These ancient scriptures give us a framework for the anxiety we all feel today. They suggest the pandemic wasn't just a freak accident, but part of a much larger story that's been unfolding for thousands of years. The final takeaway isn't fear. It's a call to be ready. A call to see how fragile our world is, and turn to the only real source of security. If these events truly are the birth pains Jesus spoke of, then they also signal that something new is about to be born. The Bible doesn't end with judgment. It ends with hope. It ends with the promise of a new heaven and a new earth, where God himself will wipe away every tear and where death, sorrow, and pain will be gone forever. The real question isn't when the next plague will arrive. It's, will you be ready? The warning has been given. Now is the time to open your Bible, seek God, and build your life on the hope that He promises.